Trust or English heritage, it's us as a family, and we've been here so far for 251 years, since 1765. So we're starting to feel like we're a bit more established, 9 generations in. I live in the priory with my wife Kat and our 4 children. We have 2 boys and 2 girls. Elsa is 11, Laurie is 9, Guy is 8, and Tess is 6. They had half term last week, so they're back at school today. And they're at school locally, so I'll be doing the school run a little bit later on. So this is a living, breathing family home and garden and grounds that you're visiting today. And I hope you feel welcomed, and that if you visited before, I'm sure it will have been sometime in the last 26 consecutive years, which is the time that we've been open for our fantastic snowdrops, and you've chosen a good day to come. We haven't got quite the blue sky and sunshine that we had first thing this morning, but at least there's no wind and there's no rain, which are 2 things which can really spoil a visit to Hodsock. And the campfire's going nicely here, so you're seeing things at their very, very best. The birds are singing, and if you haven't been around the gardens yet, you'll see some wonderful daffodils out. There's some crocus, some cyclamen, and there's some amazing irises that have popped out in the last couple of days, which is fabulous. And you may get that very heady scent of sarcococca, which is a lovely evergreen hedge that just flowers and sounds and smells absolutely beautiful at this time of year. So you've chosen a good day to come. The first time that we opened for the Snowdrops was in the winter of 1991. We did one Snowdrop Sunday. I wonder if any of you came along to that. If you do, you'll probably remember the weather more than the experience, because it was sheet rain that turned into snow. It was howling a gale. It was pretty cold and wet and miserable, the worst kind of February day you can possibly get. So we were genuinely not expecting anybody to venture out from their homes to come and see us. But to our complete surprise, 700 people turned up. So with 700 people in the car park, we thought, wow, right, we better get ourselves ready for this. I think we had about 20 cups ready to go, with a bag of PG tips and a pint of milk and one rather decrepit outside loo. But nonetheless, we managed, and it was a very magical day for us, and I hope that some of that magic remains today. We appreciate the event has grown just a little bit, but the magic of that day is something we try and preserve. Keep the magic. And we're now open every single day at this time of year, so that we can dodge some of the bad weather and give you lots of opportunities to come and see the grounds on nicer days like today. So we're open all of this week and all of next week, so do tell your friends and family, neighbours and friends that now is a very good time to visit. The last day will be Sunday the 5th of March this year. And if you are interested in coming to see the grounds at another time of year, there's a few ways that you can do that. One is to come and see the bluebell collection here. It's at this end of the woods. Horse pasture wood is our oldest wood here. It's an ancient woodland with our oldest oak tree over here. This tall oak tree here is around 500 years old. And this is the start of a sea of bluebells. If you think we've got a lot of snowdrops, times it by 1,000 and you're getting quite close to the number of bluebells that we have here. The last weekend of April and the first weekend of May we shall be open. I can predict what the weather forecast will show online. It'll have a bright sunshine with a black cloud and a lightning strike through it. So it's a classic English day, and I'll translate that for you. It means from dawn until about 11 o'clock in the morning it'll be a beautiful day. The birds will be singing, the bluebells will look sensational, there'll be a light dew on the ground, there'll be a sweet smell in the air. We'll have the campfire lit, and you can come and get a coffee and a bacon sandwich here, and it's a lovely way to pass a couple of hours in the morning. At 11 o'clock the sky will turn black, and we will have thunder and lightning until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when it finally stops raining, and then we'll have a glorious evening. But the ground's completely soaked, everyone's a bit exhausted by the weather, and the idea is to start again in the morning. So come in the mornings if you decide to come back and see the bluebells in April or May. And I hope on the way in you're all given the bluebell dates on the back of the welcome leaflet. Will give you those dates at the end of April and beginning of May. We also organise private tours of the house. If you have a group or a society, bear in mind that you can come and join us for a private tour. It's the best way to experience the priory. We'd love to open it, but with muddy boots and the like, it doesn't lend itself so nicely to our 19th century floors. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, the house itself is built in 2 stages. Our 500-year-old tree was planted around the same time as our 500-year-old gatehouse was built. So you've seen the twin-towered gatehouse with the archway and the flag flying today. That building was built in about 1500 and visited by Henry VIII in 1541. So there's a living, breathing history. The Clifton family from whom we bought the estate were the landowners here at the time, and they were gamekeepers to Henry VIII, hence the visit by the monarch on that summer day in 1541. He brought a very small entourage of 3,000 men on horseback with him as well, which the Clifton family had to make sure were fed, watered and entertained for 6 days. So although they only had lunch here for one day, they had to take them around their hunting grounds, which included Sherwood Forest to the south and Hatfield Forest to the north. A lot of that woodland's been gradually thinned to make way for more agriculture as our population has grown, and Henry VIII himself chopped down most of Sherwood Forests to get the oak trees out to make his amazing warships after the New Forest had been decimated, where most of the ships ended up being built. So the gatehouse would have been the entrance scene for this big sea of men on horseback. It would have been an amazing day, but the Cliftons never built anything quite so grand after that. I think partly because they were bankrupted by that one visit, and partly because they moved all their estates down to Nottingham. And if you're from the Nottingham area, I'm sure the name Clifton will mean something to you. It's Clifton Village, where the Lords of Hodsock, as the Cliftons called themselves, moved to, and many of their memorials are in the village parish church there. So the Cliftons had really abandoned Hodsock by the 1760s, just as the Mellish family from whom I'm descended. Their fortunes were on the rise. They were traders in Doncaster and London, and had built up their fortune through importing red wine and port to sell to the British aristocracy in the 1700s. It was the only drink that the Brits wanted to drink at the time, so they did very well out of that. And they bought Hodsock to complement an already quite large estate of about 20,000 acres. It took the next generation about 3 years to gamble all of that away. And that's what happens in a family. We're very grateful that lovely Anne was the generation she was the lady in the next generation who was given Hodsock to look after. And she planted these snowdrops, she landscaped the grounds here, she put in this wonderful house and gardens, and named us Hodsock Priory. The name Hodsock is ancient and comes from Hod's oak, so whoever Hod was, or Ord we think his name was, that's what's listed in the Doomsday Book 1,000 years ago. Ord had a series of oak trees and a farm here, so oak trees have played such an important part in our history. But the priory name is just from the 1820s, when Anne decided the house is finished, the grounds look fantastic, I've planted lots of lovely snowdrops, what's missing is that air of mystery. In all these Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte novels I've been reading, all the action seems to take place in such a hall or abbey or priory. So we've been Hodsock Priory since the 1820s. No monks frolicking around in the snowdrops to find today, I'm afraid to say, just the whim of my ancestor Anne. It was her older brother Henry who managed to gamble away 19,000 acres of the estate and the other stately home that the family owned just a mile away from here in Blythe. The next family that he had to sell the estate to didn't manage to keep it going. The house fell into ruin, it lost its roof, and by the end of the Second World War it was a crumbling wreck that's been cleared, and there's a series of 20th century houses sitting on its plot. No evidence of that house left whatsoever. However, here, because it's been carefully passed on from generation to generation, always carefully to a matriarch rather than a patriarch. So it's a long line of ladies that kept Hodsock's fortunes on the road here, and Anne's legacy is the one that we preserve today. She passed the estate on to a cousin who had managed to marry a lady called Margaret Cunard, who was the heiress to a shipping fortune that you may well have heard of. And Hodsock was well sustained throughout the end of the Victorian and beginning of the Edwardian period, right up and through the First World War, and it was a golden era for Hodsock here. The family managed to continue until the 1940s, when the house was commandeered by the Women's Land Army. My great aunt, who had inherited from her cousin, was here looking after 42 teenage girls during the Second World War. The land girls turned the gardens into a big vegetable patch to grow swedes and potatoes and other sort of watery veg you could easily turn into very thin soups to keep the home fires burning. And they were accompanied by a number of Italian and German prisoners of war who were stationed in a nearby prisoner of war camp. And that was something you could do. Instead of those guys standing idle, you could borrow them to come and help tend your gardens and farms in particular. particular, because everything was done manually, all the fuel was being used for the war effort. So for some 42 teenage girls, they had rather a good time with some younger German and Italian prisoners of war who came here during the 1940s, many of whom stayed in the area. So there are some French and German communities in Worksop and Retford, which you may find a surprise. And since then, the estate's continued to thrive. We keep many of the traditions going that have been going for centuries. There's evidence certainly of a Domesday farm I mentioned, a Roman settlement 2,000 years ago, and a Bronze Age one maybe 3,000 years ago. So we're newcomers to the scene here, but it's always been about farming and forestry and careful custodianship of this wonderful place, keeping the water clean, keeping the animals grazing, and those traditions remain. We have the wonderful gardens here that since 1991 we've had open. So that was my mother's idea to open to visitors, and it's grown into the event that it is today. So all of you coming today is helping support Hodsock and keeping it going for future generations to enjoy. My wife decided maybe 15 years ago, just after we were married, that Hodsock would make a fantastic wedding venue if ever we were given an opportunity to come and do that. And 11 years ago we held our first wedding here, and since then we've had just over 500 wedding receptions. That's over 1,000 couples, 1,000 families rather, that we've got to know intimately, and many of whom bring their pushchairs back a year or two later to come and visit us and see the snowdrops. So it's a really lovely and privileged business to be in, to be able to be at the landmark occasion of a family, and you can't get it wrong. So we make sure that we get the details absolutely right. And all of the income from the weddings goes straight back into heating and to preserving and restoring the house. We've managed to replumb and rewire the house. We've put something in that I didn't know existed. It's called central heating. It's amazing. You can turn it on and the house stays warm. It's brilliant. And we've partially restored the roof as and when we've needed to. We've gone from being a 36 buckets to catch the drips house to a 6 bucket house. So we're doing well. We're on our way there. We've carefully started a restoration work on the gatehouse. It's 500 years old. It's doing very well for its age, and is now pest-free. It's bird-free. The windows are now weather-tight. The doors have been sealed. The gutters have been restored. The drain pipes have been replaced and repainted, all carefully because it's Grade 1 listed. So we have to conserve everything that is original. It's rather a painful but important process to go through, and I do hope in the near future we'll be able to get it safe enough for you to be able to get inside to see this wonderful building, a room that was used by the land girls as a mess room on their Saturday nights to screen movies, and as Henry VIII's dining room when he visited here in the 1540s. So it's got so much history, so much potential. It's a project which we're dying to get our teeth into as and when time allows. So I hope that gives you a little insight into who we are. This is our family home, and please enjoy wandering around. And do come again, see the bluebells later in the year. If you know anyone who's interested in getting married and wants a beautiful place, bear them in mind and send them in our direction. And do continue to enjoy and support us here at Hodsock. I'll just mention that Henry, my wayward ancestor who gambled the entire estate away, just to give you an idea of how reckless he was, his final bet as to whether he could keep his estate. He was sitting at his dining table just a mile away from here with the Prince Regent to his right, and they were competing with each other to see whether a pat of butter would stick to the ceiling when they flicked it up there with their butter knife. The entire balance of the estate was held on whether a pat of butter would hit the ceiling of the dining room in his beautiful Jacobean house. Henry failed to reach the ceiling and it came splatting down onto the table, and the following day he had to put the for sale sign up. All the contents, the amazing wine cellar, all the artwork that had been collected by the family for years, and a huge section of land around here which put a lot of people's livelihoods slightly out of kilter, because one of the things about looking after the countryside, you get a lot of people involved, and when you're involved in farming and forestry, it involves a lot of careful, skilled, wonderful people. So I think that was quite a disruptive time. So if ever we have a disagreement in the family and think, well, what would Anne do? Because look at what she's left behind, wonderful lady. What would Henry do? Look what he's left behind, not so impressive. Whatever it is that Anne would do, that's what we're going to do. I hope that's been a lovely insight for you. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you again.